Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Well, in honor of National Scrapbook Day, me and a few friends decided to get together and do a video hop. Well, the problem is I don't typically do scrapbook pages, but I decided to go ahead and dig deep and try to see if I can pull one together. Now, when my son was little, and he's the one on the bottom right, I used to do scrapbooking all the time. But since he's actually in college now, I haven't scrapbooked in a while. So I decided to go ahead and find a photo of my husband, which was on the top left, when he was about 6 months old, and use the baby picture of my son when he was 6 months old and put together a scrapbook page. So I started out with an 8x10 piece of paper from the Tim Holtz Eclectic Stash. And this was a 12x12 paper stack that I cut down to 8x10. I started out by distressing the edges of the paper using some distress ink called frayed burlap. Your distress inks are dye inks, whereas your distress oxides are a combination of dye and pigment ink. So when you fuse the two together, it creates an oxide effect. Now, one of the big differences here is in this technique that I'm showing you, where I'm adding the ink onto a craft mat, spritzing it, and then adding it onto the paper. After you dry the ink on this paper, you could easily come in and add another layer. And the distress oxide will actually be a layered effect. It won't muddy up and it won't blend. Whereas in your distress inks, if you do too many layers or too many combinations, you may end up with a muddy effect. So to add a little bit more interest to my background, I did decide to come in with a stencil and the distress oxide. So not only can you water down the oxides on your craft mat, you can use them for stamping as well as stenciling. So once I was happy with the background, I decided to add some washi tape to add a little bit more interest. I love washi tape, and I use it often in my designs. It's an easy way to add color to a background as well as interest. It can also work as a great adhesive. If you have several layers on a card or a project that you might be working with, it's additional adhesive to help hold down the item that you might be working with. You could easily tape it over ephemera as well. Now, another technique that I like to use when I'm trying to distress or make something look old or vintage is I like to use my distress tool. And this is a tool that will fray the edges of my cardstock to make it look a little bit worn. And then I'll typically come in with some color, and in this particular situation, I'm going to use my distress crayon, and I'm going to add a little bit more color to the edges. And the color that I'm going to use for this is Pilled Paint. Now another thing that I like to do when I'm using washi tape, specifically when the washi tape does match the background, is I like to come in with some color to emphasize the edges. Black soot is a real good color to outline because it's very dramatic. And simply what I'm doing is I'm outlining the washi tape and then I'm using my finger to smear it. Now distress crayons smear better if you have some moisture to them. So I decided to come in with my Distress Collage medium to help smear the edges. Now another great technique that I like to use when I'm trying to create a background is to take a small stamp that has background, such as script on this particular one, and hold it in my hand and just randomly add some background ink. You don't necessarily want to use an acrylic block because you're not looking for a full stamped image. You're just looking for some randomness, and holding it in your hand and having some ink on the stamp is a great technique. Now if you want a more crisp image, of course you're going to want to use an acrylic block to make sure that your image is nice and crisp. So once I was completely happy with my background, I went ahead and adhered my 2 pieces of cardstock that are going to mat my photos. And at this point I'm going to go ahead and start decorating my 8x10 scrapbook page. I typically use ephemera when I'm creating layers, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and use on this scrapbook page as well. But I'm sure you can certainly use all sorts of embellishments on your own scrapbook page. So why don't you go ahead and sit back and relax while I decorate the rest of my 8x10 scrapbook page, and I'll be back at the end of the video to share with you a giveaway in honor of National Scrapbook Day and give you a little bit more information. So in honor of National Scrapbook Day, I thought I would do a giveaway. I'm going to be giving away to one lucky winner a Spellbinders Mixed Media Collage ephemera pack. This is a 6x6 paper stack that has some great ephemera that you can use for scrapbooking. Now in order to qualify for the drawing, you do have to be a subscriber to my channel. And go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know what your style of scrapbooking is. I will leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this scrapbook page, along with the links to the stores. I would sure appreciate a thumbs up, and don't forget this is a video hop, so be sure to check out the other videos that are listed below. Alright everyone, thanks for joining me on my trip down memory lane, and I hope you have a great National Scrapbook Day.